morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday, and welcome to this week's episode of ascendLIVE. I am very excited to be here with everyone today. I hope everyone's having a good start to the week after, I'm sure, what was a bit of a sluggish post-Super Bowl Monday for us all. So as you know, if you've been here with us before, Ascend is the show that's all about elevating women who work in the marketing industry. And of course, we welcome everybody to join and watch this show, but that is really our focal point. And so with that brief introduction, I will tell you why I'm so excited to have our guest, Stephanie Rich, with us today. And I've noticed that there's been a lot of response in the promotion for this episode because I think other folks are too. So Stephanie has the rare breeding of being a traditional marketer who started out on the brand side and who now works in the wonderful world of startups. And she's going to talk to us today about all the startup marketing secrets that traditional marketers should have on their radar. So without further ado, Ms. Stephanie Rich, thank you for joining us. I am bringing you up. Hi, Stephanie.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing great. How about yourself?
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us bright and early. And you're in St. Louis, right? Or Minneapolis? Yes. I had my Midwest cities confused.
Freezing.
Sorry?
No worries. It's absolutely freezing here.
Is it? Yeah, it's in Pennsylvania and it's snowing here too. So Stephanie, let's get into it.
Yes.
I'm excited. This is going to be juicy.
Do it.
So would you mind starting by just telling us a little bit about your background? Start at, wherever you want, post-college. Give us the journey line. Let's start there.
Yeah, the journey has been weird for me. I went to journalism school.
Oh, I didn't know that. Hey, Stephanie, it looks like you might be freezing.
We're going to go downstairs to my house.
Pardon me?
I'm going downstairs.
Okay, no worries.
We're going on a literal journey.
Love it. Oh my goodness. See, all journeys are unexpected.
I started in journalism school and then ended up actually in the film industry where I did sales and marketing for films. And so really thinking about how do we tell the story of movies before they're made? I wrote a book, which is a whole different story, and ended up at business school where I started focusing more on marketing.
You got to stop at the book for a second, Stephanie. Tell me about the book.
Yeah, so the book, I redid a trip that my grandfather did in 1931.
Wow.
Around Europe. So went to about 27 cities and redid all the photography that he had done.
Wow. Okay, so you're
incredible.
You're a photographer as well.
I try. I don't know how well I do it, but I try. But that's really, after business school is really when I sort of accidentally fell into the world of tech startups and became employee number one at a high growth venture-backed tech startup called Spark. We rebranded, which I'm happy to talk about, to Particle. And I stood up the business of that. But a huge focus of mine, when you are really early on at a startup, you start by doing everything and you slowly slough off the different pieces until you focus. And I started to really focus in on marketing. Did that for about 4 years, decided it was time to sleep and do a little something else, and started my own marketing consultancy, which I'd love to talk about a little bit because my business partner is this phenomenal woman, and actually the reason I know Lola, named Jalen Rosenblum. Jalen has background marketing for huge companies, gigantic companies. And so to then have this consultancy where we worked with a lot of startups, but have Jalen's learnings come in from that more traditional side was phenomenal.
Yes.
And I'd love to.
Fun fact for everybody, just to give you that background. I actually met Stephanie not just through Jalen, but at Jalen's bachelorette weekend in Minneapolis. So we have had a 48-hour intensive bonding session now years ago that has brought us to this moment here today.
Exactly. And so I learned a ton there, decided it was time to get back into the world of startups. So helped launch a few additional ones, stood up a publication about startups. And all the while I was mentoring quite a bit, working with just a ton of early stage companies. And one of the organizations I did that for is Techstars, which is an amazing accelerator program.
Very cool.
And through that, I met my current business partners, Brett Brohl and Mary Grove, where we're now at Bread and Butter Ventures, which is an early stage venture capital fund. Based here, we invest all over, and we have 41 portfolio companies. Wow. So I work with a lot of them on different aspects of marketing.
And that's what really inspired me to invite you on, Stephanie. And Stephanie, you're still cutting in and out a little bit. So do you think maybe should we have you refresh maybe?
Yeah, I'll refresh.
Okay. All right. No, we'll be here. Don't worry. Sorry, you're stuck with me for a second, everyone. But I'll just also use this moment to comment that, Coach Carlisle, thank you. My one of my athletic director from high school just commented and said that this is awesome. We love him. Thank you. All right, Stephanie, you are back.
I'm back. Okay.
You missed one awesome comment from Coach Carlisle.
Amazing. Thank you.
This is awesome already. Very nice. Okay. So you were just telling us about the 41 portfolio companies that Bread and Butter Ventures is investing in. And I mentioned that part of why I thought it'd be really interesting to chat with you today is you are looking at this huge cornucopia of different sorts of companies across industries, and you're advising them all on their approach to marketing. So yeah, tell us a little bit more about what that is like. What is a day in the life of a head of platform at a VC firm?
Yeah. So it's a little bit all over the place because I do a bunch of different things where I actually do marketing for the firm as well. And then I do portfolio support, which for us comes alive in a variety of helping make the right connections, helping build out our network, and then working directly with a lot of these companies. And I work a lot with CMOs, VPs of marketing, chief of staffs on strategy, different things. And I lean really heavily into press, which is an interesting part of early stage marketing.
So now we're getting into the secrets already.
Yeah.
Startup marketing secrets. Let's talk about earned media. And I'm sorry for anybody watching who's not like a deep marketing nerd, because it's going to get super nerdy right now. So bear with us. If you have a question, post in the comments. We will address it. But talk about press as sort of through the lens of how you see it, and the purpose of a press strategy in a startup versus maybe a traditional, more established company. I should stop saying traditional, more established company.
Yeah, I press is one of those really interesting things where it's in theory can make such a difference in a startup's life, particularly consumer facing. Well, so there are two or three different reasons that you want to get press when you're early. Well, many reasons, but
top two or three.
One, you're consumer facing, or you're B2B2C, and so you need people to know about your product in order to use you. One that comes to mind, one of our companies, they're a little outside our sectors, called Omnia Fishing, uses data it's a e-commerce marketplace that uses data to help sell fishing gear. Getting them out in the world is hugely impactful because people can directly go to them. So there's consumer. Two, there's obviously getting in front of B2B purchasers, which is a huge part of our portfolio. But I almost think that getting in front of B2B purchasers is a little different in that what we really want to do with a lot of these startups is show that they're real, provide validity. And so the concept of validity for press is hugely important. And the reason that I stress that is it helps us when we think about our press strategies, because we don't necessarily only go after huge publications. We go after different publications that might be trade focused, that might be really focused on funding, or might be local, to give us that validity, so that you can then, as you are calling on people, as people are going to your website, show, hey, Austin Inno wrote about us, which is an Austin startup company or startup publication. And so we start saying that. And then we have the last kind of provide great links. Everybody on here who is an SEO master knows that it is so helpful to have those links directing to your site. When you're brand new, you have to establish yourself out there, and earned media is a great way to bump up your search results.
So what I'm hearing from you, Stephanie, that's super interesting. And I love that we're already providing these gems. What an established company might think about, let's say I'm, director of marketing at, I'm making this up, Pepperidge Farm, and you're launching a new product. You think about your press strategy as in terms of getting that awareness. So you're looking for scale. You're looking for the biggest publications. You're looking for the biggest names. You're looking for journalists that have a huge audience. But what you just shared with us is that there's another way to look at this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Think about that article as a piece of content, and you control what you do with it, right?
Absolutely.
Like, it doesn't have to be in the New York Times to make an impact. That's huge.
We've got an amazing portfolio company actually in Austin, in Texas, called Knit. They only changed their name to Knit. They used to be called Perpix about a month ago. And so in talking to them, they weren't really going to do a press strategy for this announcement, because it's hard to get, when you're have gotten $2 million in funding as a company, it's tough to get press for a rename, for a rebrand. But we got them into Austin Inno, which was not about driving sales.
Mm-hmm.
It was purely about getting press, getting earned media in their new name, and getting those links back to them to establish that brand for the first time.
I love it. And it sounds, Stephanie, one of the things that I'm hearing from you already, part of your magic seems to be thinking really strategically about objective before you jump into tactic.
100%. I think that that's a mistake that a lot of startups make, is because they hear this. Most startups do not have marketers early, right? If any marketers out there ever want to mentor or work with startups, let me know, because they all could use it. But
you heard it here, people. I hope Stephanie gets a number of DMs today from anyone who's looking for a gig.
And so when they think marketing, they think, okay, marketing is tactics. Marketing is Google Ads. Marketing is putting out a blog. They don't necessarily think about why.
Mm-hmm.
Why? And that, honestly, that's one of the things Jalen taught me when we were working together is one, the power of why, the power of thinking about what is your objective?
Yes.
What are you really trying to do here? Because the hardest part about a startup is having to prioritize. You could do any and everything.
Yes.
Especially when it comes to thinking about marketing. And so the power to prioritize comes down to hitting your business objectives. And then the other thing is relying on your brand really early.
Tell us more about that. Oh, and by the way, we have another friend who's saying hello. Hi, Greg, another expert marketer out there. Greg, thanks for joining. Let us know if you have any questions for Stephanie.
And this, I'm going to give Jay a lot of shout outs, but so Jalen was a director of brand marketing at PepsiCo. And which
we know is one of the most effective training grounds for any marketing thought leader. And I totally concur. Jalen is one of those people who really gets that idea of being strategic.
Yep. And so, but what she taught me about brand. So I was on board about objectives and, thinking really strategically, and we had grown this amazing brand and community. But when I had thought about brand, I thought, okay, well, for startups, that can come later. We just launched out the gate. We inherently understood our brand, but we didn't write it down right away. We didn't really think about it too much. We just kind of felt like we inherently understood it for the first year or two. And Jay really taught me how thinking really early about your brand, even if it's in simple ways. And we designed a brand sprint to do this, but thinking early about your voice, your target customer, all of the aspects that make up that core branding foundation that we as marketers all love can make a huge difference for a startup.
Tell me more. What are some examples from your portfolio companies that you're seeing where folks who've really leaned into defining the identity of their brand have benefited from that?
So one is River Health. They're helloriver.com. They're awesome. Rethinking healthcare. So instead of insurance, you actually do a healthcare subscription like you would Netflix. Highly recommend to everybody, especially if you're working with any gig wage companies. This is a great way to provide your employees health benefits. Kobe and Charles are the two founders. Charles is CMO and is phenomenal at understanding, okay, my core user is this millennial. He understands not only the millennial, where they are at their life, all the demographics, everything that you want to know for your target user, but then he has inherently kind of just internalized their brand. They're fun, but they're a healthcare brand. They're different. They're playful, but they're not silly. You know, all of the kind of good things that you can talk about, and it comes alive so much in their website, in how they onboard users, and how they put together their partnership documents, everything. And they're killing it. They're doing really well.
Yeah, I mean, and if you think about, and Greg has some more commentary for us here. They always think tactics rather than brand and voice. Exactly. And that little anecdote you just gave us, Stephanie, really, I think, expresses this idea. People want to be in a relationship with an identity, not just a solution, right?
100%. 100%. And I also, this is a slightly different, but it's something that I've been thinking a lot about. Lola and I actually connected the other day to talk about content.
And you mentioned starting in TV, by the way. That was that showed me like storytelling has to be one of your gifts.
I try.
Sorry, I'm so excited about having you here. I keep talking, but this is about you.
But you know, as Greg is saying, thinking about tactics, that comes alive a lot for startups in content, where they think we have to have content, we have to have a blog, and they don't think about why, like who they're writing their blog for, so that targeted user for their brand, and what that blog, what that voice is saying and using. And so instead they write a blog about, you know, this is our product. And it doesn't have any personality. It doesn't have connection. It doesn't solve problems as we know that we want content to do. It's more tactics. And so that's another thing that we, you know, I really encourage them to think about again is it's phenomenal to have content. Why are you doing it?
Right. And I think that has to do with the prioritization piece, right? If you're not thinking about the why, how do you decide what?
Absolutely. Well, and it's also tough because sometimes you're talking with companies that have 3 people and they are, you know, busy trying to sign Cisco food brands or UHG or like these huge companies. And so they're totally focused on that. They're totally focused on product. And so how do they think about marketing? My number one piece of advice to them for folks that are not inherent marketers, think about what you like to do. So yes, you want to take your brand and your voice and have that be something, but like, what is not a burden to you? That's like the prioritization special sauce. What is good for the company? Like what moves the needle for a business goal? What is not a huge lift? If you hate writing, don't do a blog. It's just, you're never going to do it. It's going to be good. And you're never going to prioritize it out of all these things you have to do. And so you have to think differently of maybe it's do videos. My one of our general partners, Brett, he is actually a great writer, but doesn't love it. So he does 2-minute videos on startup for his content, because it's useful for us, for it's driving awareness of him, but it's not a heavy lift. And so it's easy for him to prioritize.
Yes. What is not a burden to you? I mean, I wonder how many people watching, whether you're an established company or in a startup, are actually asking yourself that question as you plan your marketing strategy. Greg, feel free to let us know. I love your comments here. Are you actually thinking to yourself, what is not a burden to me versus what do I think would be cool to do? I mean, this is a lesson that's beyond marketing. So many business leaders really need to embrace.
Absolutely. It's what, and I think we've learned from content that one of the things to do is to have it repeatable, to have something that your users can go back to or that you're known for. And frankly, like, I made those mistakes earlier in my career at Particle of thinking like, oh, this is a great idea. Let's do this blog. We love it. It's so good. None of us had time to do it. None of us really wanted to do it. So we did like 3. Yep. And then it was done. No matter how it was.
What's a recent, I love that 2-minute video idea. What are some other, burdenless for your portfolio companies content strategies that you've seen be really effective?
So one that I'm doing, frankly, I hope is effective, is like a repetitive Q&A. And so I want a way to feature my founders. They're all crazy busy. So getting them to talk to me for an hour about an interview, just about themselves, is not high on their list. Like they want to talk about strategy or something. And so for our content for this year, we've developed 5 questions that we're asking everyone.
Ooh.
Super easy. It's called, so our company's Bread and Butter. I was rewatching Downton Abbey, and I learned about something called a bread and butter letter, which is a letter that thanks you for hospitality. And so our 5 questions are around gratitude.
Ooh.
But so it's email based. Don't have to talk to anybody on the phone. 5 questions, super repetitive, very little work for me. So that's one.
Love that.
We're seeing folks who we talk about growth hacking. So, and I won't get too into growth hacking, but one of my favorite things that I see folks do is when they use their product to growth hack. And by that, I mean figuring out a way that your product does the marketing for you, whether that's making part of your product free. So I have a team I work with, not actually in our portfolio, but who is coming out with a calculator for this is weird, but in the animal feed business. And it will be a free calculator for the animal feed business, something they have internally. So they're just exposing it.
Interesting.
And that's actually
huge. Yeah. What are you actually using in your business that you can use to grab awareness and engagement with your target audience?
What are you already using that can drive either awareness, use? It's the same thing that we think about. Why do people download white papers? Why do we use white papers for B2B? It's because it's useful. It's something that drives, pulls people in, makes us give our email addresses. What can you use from your product that does the same thing?
Interesting.
And much easier for people. So we're seeing that.
How are they distributing, Stephanie, real quick, because I think this is a really interesting one. How are they distributing the calculator?
So the plan right now is to have it on site, just on their website, so that people can use it, and it's something that drives traffic and awareness, and then has it's still being built out, but has power to just pull people in, make people see, okay, look how powerful this is. Look how insightful this is. What if I do this even more? What if I work with them full time? And so it's also
you give them that little taste. We have a user commenting, such a smart idea to focus on what you actually enjoy doing. you're not prepared to do something 100 times, don't do it the first time. Otherwise, it becomes another task staring you in the face that you have to force yourself to do. Well said, right?
Yeah. And I think the other place we're seeing this right now, frankly, is Clubhouse.
Where we reunited. In the last 4 episodes of this show, literally it has come up.
And it's still, it's still all over the place. It's still nascent, but it's really not like, look at me just babble on. It's natural for us to talk and listen. And so it's an easy way for people to start doing personal branding and then branding and marketing for their companies.
So since you brought it up, I'm curious, Stephanie, what do you think the brand involvement should look like on Clubhouse? And think about this in terms of both established and startup.
Such a good question. And it's something we've been talking about in VC comms quite a bit of, does that look like does the brand host events? Which I think might be interesting, because I think that the thing with Clubhouse is I don't think people are going to do well when it's about a brand.
Right.
When the topic is about a brand, it's going to be similar to blogs of like the content that does really well is when you're helping someone with a problem that they have or something that's interesting. And so I think brands that can come up with that are great. I think we'll see people utilize individuals as brand representatives even more.
Totally
which will
agree.
Be fascinating to see how things like CPG brands bring that to life.
And here's what I hope. I hope we've learned from publishing how badly things go when you try to make, like you said, the story about you. Like what I really hope is brands approach this as a sponsorship model, not a sort of like content marketed conversation. This is literally you're helping to provide the resources and the platform for whomever to tell their story or to share what they're doing or to just sort of almost like an orchestra. Like I want you, brand, to give me access to this amazing thing, and that's it.
Yep. And I think too, from a startup perspective, it's quite interesting because we do see a lot of founders who are personality behind their brand, even if they don't have a ton to do with their brand, or even if it's a B2B thing. And that's hugely valuable because, as Greg was pointing out, marketing is a relationship business. And so even when you personalize this very B2B or, I'm thinking of one founder, if you haven't checked out Upsie, upsie.com, amazing warranty. But Clarence is phenomenal at being a leader in the founder startup space. And I think it's really beneficial for his company.
So that's a great point, Stephanie. How do you think the more established brands of the world can take advantage of that insight of sort of thinking about the people doing the work as ambassadors and thought leaders?
Oh, that's a great question. I think identifying some leaders within their company who are ready to be authentic is going to be really important. Because I think people these days see through reps, influencers who are not authentic, and you actually your brand is hurt by that. And so whether it is identifying folks that are directly in, like, I don't know why I'm thinking of L'Oreal this morning, but L'Oreal, let's do makeup. Whether it's someone at L'Oreal who is on the teams that are formulating a new makeup, if it's a leader who talks about what is it like to be female C-suite,
yes,
or is it a project manager who talks about project managing at a big company and lends an intelligence, a warmth, insight to L'Oreal, the brand.
I love that. I mean, it's so different than what we're seeing. I think some brands are getting it right, along those lines, but we always see the sort of glossy influencer, the sort of completely perfectly done ambassador. I want to meet the R&D folks at L'Oreal.
Exactly.
Where are they?
that's what we're seeing from some of the big tech companies. We're seeing these tech leaders speak about how do you roll out a new product, how do you product manage, all of these things, and it lends such heft, intelligence, and just value to the brand by having them do that.
Absolutely. I love it. Huh. There's so much richness here. I'm like already thinking about how this impacts a few of the things I'm working on. But Stephanie, I know you mentioned you have a hard stop at 9 your time, so I do want to respect that. But if we had one parting thought from you for 2021, let's sort of focus back on our goal here of elevating women towards achieving their highest professional goals. What do you think we as women marketers should be really focused on to make sure this is a year where we're leveling up?
I'm going to go back to something I talked a little bit about, but mentorship. I would encourage everyone listening out there not only to look for your own mentors, no matter where you are, even if you're super senior, find mentors.
Yes.
I think you can level up your skills, level up your strategic thinking by acting as a mentor. Again, no matter where you are in your journey, give back, act as the people I learn the most from are our founders. You know, I'm often in a position where I'm supposed to, you know, in theory, be advising them. I learned so much from them, and my skill set increases because of my exposure to them, because of the time I spend mentoring. So that is my recommendation is don't only get a mentor for yourself, find someone you can mentor.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. I love that parting advice. We say it all the time here at BCO, learning is liberty. It's one of our 6 values that we're really focused on. And I think the relationships are the catalyst to that. So love that advice. Stephanie Rich, we got to do this again sometime. You're an amazing guest.
I would love to.
Many insights. Thank you so much, Stephanie.
Thanks, Lola. Awesome to see you, and we'll talk soon. And thanks for on technical issues.
Oh, no worries. And you know what? We heard your voice clearly the whole time, and so none of the gems were lost.
Let's blame the cold.
Exactly. We'll do that. Thanks, Stephanie. Have a great day. Everybody, thank you so much for joining. We will see you next week. And we have a very exciting guest next week. One Guy Kawasaki will be with us on Tuesday morning. Met him on Clubhouse. You heard it here first. So definitely tune in for that next week. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.